Hey everybody, it's Kenny K here. Drop my camera. That's a good start. So you see, it's raw footage. Everything I do is raw footage. And I was looking for a 80s slasher to review, and I did a lot of on my channel. I did a lot of reviews of 80s slashers or 90s slashers or 70s slashers, and I was thinking, okay, the more obscure ones, and there's this website where you can see, you type in 1980 and you get all the slashers of that year with a picture, the poster of the movie. And there's this movie that I remember seeing that one, and I thought it was okay. It was okay. Now seeing it for the second time, I'm thinking that's not really a horror movie. Actually, it's more of a thriller, mystery, a thriller mystery movie. Actually, in my opinion, because you don't get a lot of kills, and there's no real, not super. I mean, there's almost no gore, and there's no real tension or creepiness, in my opinion, until the end. Yeah, I'll spoil this one, but I'll say when I'm gonna spoil it. So you've got, I have to take my notes because of the characters. Hold on for a second. I always take notes because if I forget the fucking characters. Oh yeah. So the movie is called Cries in the Night. It's from 1980. So it's not from 81 when all the good ones came out. It's from 1980. It also goes under the name Funeral Home. It gets a 5.1 on IMDb, which isn't bad. It gets a 5 from me after the second viewing. Just because this movie is at moments tedious, boring a little bit, too much blah blah blah. Yeah, and so you've got Maud Chambers, who owns a funeral home that was she owned it together with her husband James Chambers, but he died, and now she wants to make the funeral home into a B&B, a bed and breakfast. Heather, her grandchild, is sent by her mom to help her out. Okay. Now apparently many people, realtor agents came to buy up the place, but she said no because she doesn't want to, because she can't part with it. Okay. So we see Heather arriving in a bus, and she's picked up by a guy in a minivan called Ricky, and a cop car passes by, and that's in the cop car is Joe Yates, and that's his brother. He just became a deputy. Now, when he arrives at the funeral home, he takes off the suitcases that are pretty heavy because she's gonna be there for a long time, and he says to Mrs. Chambers, Heather's grandma, "I'll help you getting them inside." "No, no, I'm perfectly capable." And she just picks it up and goes like this. So, okay. And this is a little clue that will come back in the end. That she's so strong enough to just take those bags and go inside. Now, eventually, they open and Mr. Davis arrives. A one man party. He's a really friendly guy. He's there to fish in the quarry. Um, Harry and Flory. Harry's a traveling salesman, but Flory, he's like this. It's like that couple that you, when you go on vacation, you know, that sitting next to you, smoking cigars and drinking cocktails and laughing out loud, and you really want to punch them in the face. That's the kind of couple they are. And Mrs. Chambers, you know, the grandmother wants them out, but they pay for the entire weekend. So there's also a guy working there. He's simple-minded, but he's been working there since he was a kid, and he gets room and board for him doing some working around the house. He's called Billy Pipes. There's this one moment that Flory, sorry, the guy, Harry has to go to a sales call, and he's, you know, with his shirt open, and he's stinking to beer, and he's driving away, and Flory stays behind, and they go to the quarry, because at the quarry they're all youngsters, and, you know, jumping from the rocks, and you can sunbathe there. And then eventually she's flirting with all the guys there. She's basically also a slut above everything else that I said. And he sees Billy, you know, the handy boy, chopping wood, and he sees, that's what I like to see. She's gonna sit there doing some sexy, in a sexy pose, you know, but she's an ugly slut, and that's what she says, that's what I want to see, a real man that's doing real man's work. And then she says, you want to fuck me? And he says, yeah, yes, because he's simple-minded, he really, and then she laughs at him and just keeps laughing at him and goes away. She basically, it's a fucking bitch. You want her to die, you want her to die in a horrible way, but she doesn't die in a really gory or horrible way, because at some point they go out partying, and they go to the quarry, but then somebody in a truck starts to push their car into the lake, and they drown, and that's how they die. So that's a lame kill. I hoped actually that she gets a fucking axe, because he was chopping axe. I hope that he or whoever the killer it may be, chopped the fucking axe in the front of her fucking face. She's even more uglier. That probably made her more beautiful. Now, Deputy Joey finds this car. Deputy Joey, you know, the brother of Ricky. Heather and Ricky are having a friendship. Maybe would they not situation? You know, a hookup situation. But Joey Yates, deputy, finds a car on a field covered with bales of hay. and he finds out that that car, it belongs to a man who was a realtor. Then she goes to Mrs. Chambers, funeral home, now B&B, of course, and she acknowledges that this man passed by frequently, but that he was really pushy, and that she had to really push him away to get him out of her life. Now, Heather at one night hears, because the grandmother said you can go everywhere except the basement, the cellar. That's off limits. No, non-negotiable. Now she hears her grandma in the cellar talking to a guy like this. You should kill the fucking bitch. You're all bitches. You're all stupid assholes. And then she says, no, no, no. We need them. They're tenants. We need the money. No, you don't need the money. We have our funeral home. You don't need the money. So you think, okay, this guy is James Chambers? Is it her husband? But he died? Now, at some point, Joey Yates is trying to, uncover the case with the realtor guy and this and this and that, because he disappeared and nobody's seen where he is, and the sheriff says, don't get so deep in it, deputy. Come on, just go out and give tourists some tickets. Do your job. Boom. That's what they're a small town community, and we want to keep it that way. And eventually, he doesn't want the hassle. Okay. Now, every night, Heather hears her grandma in the cellar talking with this shrill-voiced man, and talking about that he's unhappy, that he wants to get rid of people, and that he would this and this and that. Now, Mr. Davis, who's there alone, is there not alone for a reason. He was actually looking for for his wife, and he goes to the sheriff's office, and they don't know where she is. Now, a local guy who does odd jobs here and there goes with him to a bar. He pays his drinks, and he gives some information. Now, Ricky also knew that apparently James apparently had an affair with a woman, and the odd job guy also confirmed that he saw James Chambers having sex with this other woman, and that they basically disappeared at the same time. So things are starting to fall in place, right? Mr. Davis confronts Mrs. Chambers with that, and she doesn't want to hear a thing about it. She doesn't want to hear it. She just leave me alone. And he says, I'm sorry. He's really sorry. He doesn't want to bother her with that, and he feels bad and this, because he said, I'm just looking for my wife, but every track that I follow leads right here, and I just want to know. And eventually he goes night fishing on a boat, and of course he gets killed by a person with a shrill voice. The person from the cellar and with a shovel hit until he's dead with a shovel. I think you see his body a little bit. You see some blood on his face, and like I said, there's not a lot of kills. That's the third kill of the 4 kills you're gonna see. The realtor guy probably has been killed too off screen. We don't know. So now for spoilers, right? So Ricky and Heather, they decided to go into the cellar and they wanna check things out, right? What happens is, okay, spoiler alert from this point on, okay? First of all, Billy, the handyman, has a cat, and he's following his cat, and he's going into the cellar. And he's going in the cellar, and then he hears Mrs. Chambers, and he's saying, Mr. Chambers, Mr. Chambers, like, because he's simple-minded, he talks like that. Are you here, Mr. Chambers? And then he gets stabbed, but by this, you know, those which coroners use, but yeah, I never understood a coroner that a medical coroner that works for the police that opens a body up or opens the body open. I mean, opens it up to see the cause of death, and then the coroner who basically stitched them up, make them look good, embalm them. That's a side thing that I just don't know. Is that also a coroner? Are those the same coroners, or is the other one, you know, a medicine coroner, medicine coroner or police coroner, and the other one's just a, you know, funeral coroner? Now, in any case, he gets stabbed by this needle with a drain pipe on, with that needle is putting in the body to put the embalming fluid in. He's, you know, he's stabbed like 20 fucking times. That's probably one of the most gory scenes you're gonna see. And then Vicky, Heather, and Ricky arrive, and they see Billy's body, and then we see somebody coming up and taking Ricky and just body slamming him, just roughhousing him from left to right, throwing over. He's a rag doll, and he's completely knocked out. Then she sees it's her fucking grandmother talking in that shrill voice. You bitch, now you'll die. And then she's, stop it, James. Don't you see that the girl is frightened? Stop it, you always defended her. Now she'll have to pay the price. And then she's going after her, and boom, 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 cat and mouse game, until the point that she goes in a room where James Chambers is sitting there, embalmed, you know, and she Mrs. Mrs. Chambers comes in. And she immediately goes back to the grandma phase, and back to Maud Chambers, because she sees her husband there. And she's comforting the girl, but the police already arrived because they had more questions for Mrs. Chambers, and they saw Ricky's van, and they got in, and they're like, you know, really careful with Maud, and they're like, do you want some tea, she says, and she's like completely lost it. It's like when she's around that body, it's like basically it's the a little bit of a rip off of the from Psycho. Norman and Norma Bates, right? Norman is Norma Bates, and he keeps her body embalmed because he knows how to embalm things. You know, he has all these pets on the wall. If you see the Bates Motel, you know, that TV series with Freddie Highmore, you learn a little bit more of that. But it's basically the same deal. In Psycho, he also talks like his mom, you know. Here she talks like her husband. And what apparently happened was she killed the husband first, and then she killed the woman who he had an affair with. And he said, I always said Mrs. Chambers is one of the strongest women I ever seen. And that's that little clue when you see that she just takes those suitcases like nothing and things like that. And yeah, she's when they ask for her to help her, she does everything on her own, and she's pretty strong. But yeah, and that she basically saw her husband with that Guma, you know, that his lover, that she went mad and killed them both, and just, you know, but she couldn't leave without him, and she embalmed him and put him in the cellar, and like Norman Bates killed his mom, but he couldn't live without her, so he embalmed her too, you know. And that's basically the movie. So the negatives and positives. Negatives are there's not a lot of suspense. The suspense is at the end when they go in the cellar, and we see it's Mrs. Chambers with the shrill voice, and you see that she's talking like her husband, which is creepy. And that's sorry, my cat here. I got a lovely cat here, a black cat. It's a black cat, by the way. Billy's cat in the movie is a black cat too. But we see, you know, so there's a lot of blah 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 in the movie. There's a lot of just talking, then hearing a voice, but then going back again, never really talking about it. Having those disgusting tenants, you know, Harry and Flory, and shit. I mean, the things like that. That's the movie basically, and at the 30-minute mark, they kill Harry and Flory, and it's a movie that's an hour and 25 minutes, and in between that, it takes like 30 minutes before Mr. Davis dies, and then another 20 minutes when Billy dies, you know, and then we get the climax. And it's a very boring movie, and there's not a lot happening. It's just life at a B&B, which was a funeral home in a area where there's a cove where all the kids hang out, and one deputy who wants to find things out, but his boss won't let him because he doesn't want all the hassle. That's basically the movie. Are there good parts? Yeah, Mrs. Chambers acted. She did a great job. I mean, I'm not sure if she was the one who talked like that. If she talked like that for real, that was a really good job from her. I mean, she sounded like her husband, and acting was good. Her acting was good. Everybody's acting was good. Even the disgusting couple, but they were meant to be disgusting, so they did their jobs, right? So acting wise, no problem, but that's the only and the end. But we seen that before in Psycho, but okay, it's nice to see that again now in reverse instead of a man being the psycho, it's the woman. So that was something nice. The acting was nice, but the movie is boring, and there's not a lot of kills. There's not a lot of gore, if any, and yeah, that's basically it. So I'm giving it a it gets a 5.1. I'm giving it a 5. Yeah. It's if you're a slasher fan, you can look it up to scratch one off, and it's like I said, give it a watch. It's free on YouTube. Any case, happy Halloween, by the way. Subscribe, and let's have happy Halloween together. Bye bye, adios, and happy Halloween. Ah, get the damn